Welcome back to another episode of Business Journey Unlocked. Today I'm joined by Frank Scarso, the CEO and founder of Avanza Capital Holdings. After spending over 2 decades on Wall Street, Frank launched Avanza in 2017 to address a critical gap in the lending market, helping small businesses across 48 states access reliable working capital. What truly, honestly stands out with this company is their reputation for setting a new standard in private credit, known for delivering funding solutions with unmatched speed, flexibility, and transparency. Frank, thank you so much for joining me today. I know you'll explain yourself far better than I ever could, so please take it away from here.
Thanks for having me. So, yeah, just to give you a little background, Brooklyn born, first generation Italian American, didn't have much guidance, as far as like careers when I was a kid, it just was a little bit different. So we kind of had to find our own way. And I followed my older brother into Wall Street, and hence that's how I got into the business. Went for an interview on my 20th birthday, and they kept me. And so I just started from that point and spent the next 21 years working on Wall Street. Kind of like burnt out, was really exhausted of Wall Street, looking to find my way, and kind of merchant cash advance space fell into my lap. Believe it or not, I started to work for a friend. Literally started at the bottom because I figured there's no better way to learn, a business than to learn every aspect of it. So that's why I could teach my employees, right? If you don't know what the job needs or requires, how can you teach it? So it's always best to have, experience in everything that you do in every aspect of your business. We've been growing by leaps and bounds. The private credit market is exploding to $1.2 trillion market now, and BlackRock thinks that it could be like a $10 trillion market inside of the next decade, which are astronomical numbers.
That sounds amazing, honestly.
You know, we, we fill a gap that's needed. Unfortunately, banks are not really lending to small businesses anymore. They're lending to more so the corporate side. They'd rather lend to institutions than to the smaller businesses, and that leaves a gap. Small businesses need to access capital. Banks, it can take months before you even get a no from them, where we get you funded and money in your account within an hour. So we are
Yeah,
pretty
that's extremely
fast.
fast.
We're some of the fastest in the business. I pride myself on that.
I
I
like that
come from a
confidence. I like that confidence.
I come from a customer service background, right? So I brought that into this business where I customer service the merchants, and I also customer service the brokers that bring in the merchants because we don't originate any files here. So rather than building a book of brokers here, I decided to build a book of firms. So they're sending all the deals in here, and we just act as the bank, and all we do is the funding for them. So I service the brokers. I treat them all well. I bend where I can bend a little bit for them. I try to be a little bit understanding, and I try to be a lot understanding when it comes to the merchants when they can't make their payments or they're falling behind. You have to be a human. You have to realize that life happens, and you're dealing with small businesses, and sometimes they need to be, they have their hand held and walk them through a tough time. So business has been growing by leaps and bounds. Last year we did 20 million in funding. So far this year, we've smashed that. We've done 20 million in the last 4 months alone. I think we're at like 35 million for the year. We'll probably cap out north of 40, and next year we're forecasting probably north of 60 million in funding,
That's amazing.
which is a big number for a firm our size. I mean, we're only 22 employees strong, and we're putting away some decent paper, and the business is really starting to grow.
Now, so you're solely based in New York, correct?
No, we actually we have 4 offices: Wall Street, Staten Island, and then we have an office in Raleigh and Durham, North Carolina, and we also have an office in Boca, in Florida. You know, the go ahead.
I was going to say, any reason why, strategic wise, why you chose that place in North Carolina and Florida? Any relation?
So, yeah, I was actually just gonna answer that. You know, it's about, finding right employees, right? Finding, people in the job market is a little tough, as we were discussing earlier. So I happened to find, a good partner in North Carolina, so we opened an office down there, and then I was able to find another 2 guys, that I liked that brought in as partners, and hence the reason why we have, the Boca Raton office. Probably at some point, we're gonna expand into Texas. North Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, those states are growing, and, they're probably gonna benefit the most, out of what's, going on here in New York. I think that there's gonna be, an exodus of a certain amount of people that are gonna leave, and I think those states will benefit. So we'd like to have, some sort of representation in those states.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more so with Florida, with New Yorkers moving down there. So it's just regarding like the small business, they just need, like you said, having their hand held, right? They just need someone to help
Yeah,
them start out because when you first start a business, as you're aware, especially with your years in finance, there's just so much that goes into it. It's not like, a flip of a switch, like there's so much behind the scenes that needs to be done in order to legally not only get it done, but also financially get it done as well. And, with that
yeah.
aspect in mind, just having like somebody there, some firm that could, that understands a problem that can work with them instead of just having strict policies and rules, that really does go a long way, especially in terms of small business startups or small businesses in general just looking to just grow. So I really
Yeah,
applaud you on that.
thank you. Thank you. And like I said, we try to work with everybody, and we're very flexible, and
Yeah, that flexibility, you
I
really need
just
that.
you need to be flexible, and you need to be understanding. Unfortunately, in my business, you have a lot of other most of the other lenders really are not as understanding as we are. They're a bit shrewd, so we find ourselves shining like a star in the darkness. We shine the brightest because we do have a good reputation. We've been around almost 9 years now, coming up in January, and usually a lot of firms our size don't make it this long.
Mhm.
So being here for that long, tells you something. It tells you that we've figured out the secret sauce, the recipe, and we're here to stay. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. My youngest daughter, she's a freshman in college. She's gonna be a business major, but I'd like for her to go out into the world and, as we were discussing, learning, getting your feet wet, for the lack of a better term, and then maybe come work for dad and, work with the family business
Yeah,
when
just
the timing is
yeah.
right.
Yeah, start somewhere else, get the mistakes, get the failures out of the way, then once you're all good, you
Yeah.
can come to me, yeah? But it's also good too because you can
Get
also help.
seasoned.
Yeah, you can also help mentor her, guide her in the right direction, so I feel like that's really crucial in her development going into the working career. But I mean, yeah, I mean, with what you said about the shining light, I think that's what really sets you apart. As you mentioned, firms your size don't last long. So there's a
Yeah,
reason why you're lasting almost 9 years. It's because you're true to your value and you're true to your customers. And just having that transparency really transcends into just so many different fields. And it's
yeah,
amazing. So let me ask you this. Looking back on like the earlier years of Avanza, what was like the toughest kind of hurdles in getting traction? Because I know obviously starting a new business, you got to think about who you're going to target, how you're going to target them. You guys all think about investors. Like, how were you able to kind of get that confidence in investors navigating like the regulation? Because in the banking world, there's so much different regulations and policies that are set in place that some people don't even like realize. There's, again, as I mentioned before, there's a lot that goes behind the doors, behind the scenes with so much stuff, and banking is a whole different realm.
Yeah. So for us, finding our way with underwriting, setting guidelines as to where we want to place our capital,
Mm,
that was our biggest, hurdle, and our biggest place where we made the most errors and cost us the most dollars, right?
mhm,
But you through trial and tribulations, you learn what works and what doesn't work. And in our industry, when you're funding small businesses, you have to be aware of more than just what the business is doing. You need to be aware of what's going on in the world, in the news. Weather is a factor. If a certain area is getting hit with a hurricane and they're getting destroyed, unfortunately, those businesses are not going to be able to pay you back. So that's not a good bet. And as far as the investors, getting their confidence, it all happened naturally. Mostly everything I did in the beginning was my friends and family, and up until about 2023, it was still all friends and family, and the business kind of grew to a point where I was really turning away more files than I could fund, and there was a lot of low hanging fruit there. So I decided to expand the firm, revamped the way the structure of the company was, brought in a couple of partners to help us, bring in some capital, and hence the reason why we've had that explosion of growth. We went from doing anywhere from 1.5 million to 2.5 million a month in funding to now we're doing, our average is about $4.5 million a month. So the growth has been there, and the growth has been consistent, which is important.
that's amazing.
So it's working. Uh, don't get me wrong. I still make mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes. There's nobody that's perfect. And the minute that you think you're perfect, you got a problem because you're going to find out the hard way that you're wrong. And the most important thing that I could tell you and teach you is that learn from your mistakes.
Mhm.
Get something out of it. Get something out of your mistakes. It's important to learn from your mistakes and try. You can't change what happened, but you can change it from happening again.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, you learn best with the mistakes you make along the way. I mean, it's a hard lesson to
Yeah.
learn, but essentially that how else are you gonna learn, right? It's just you need to make those mistakes in order to grow. Again, pivoting and everything. But that's honestly amazing with your standpoint, how you first started with family and friends that knew you and knew your dream and potential, and they just wanted to help you grow from there. That's I really applaud that. That's amazing.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
you briefly did touch on, the underwriting, as I mentioned, the legal transparency as well. It's something that I've, not every alternative funding company can claim something in those aspects. Regarding the underwriting and the legal transparency, what specific principles or practices do you think have earned you that trust and kind of sets you apart from others in the private credit space?
You know, I think it's a very simple answer. It's honesty.
Honestly.
We're just forthcoming with the truth. You know, being upfront and honest. If we have a problem or if there's a situation, we don't hide it or try to hide it. We address it and we fix it. And bringing that type of model to our investors, it makes everybody feel a lot more comfortable when you're transparent. Like if I have one of our lending partners walk in here and they just come in to visit, I'm an open book. Any questions they have for me, I answer, and they appreciate that. They appreciate that. And whether they like the answer or not, you're giving them the truth, and that is important to them. And again, bringing in that mom and pop, that customer service oriented mindset has really been, I think, a game changer for us. It's brought in a different touch rather than just, looking at a file and looking at it as just another number or another yes or no. We try to look in between the lines a little bit. Don't get me wrong, we're here to make money. And we're very cautious. And like I said, we've adjusted our guidelines several times over the years and still do to this day when needed. But we're here to make money and we've been doing very well, thank God.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, people connect with people, right? So just having that transparency really goes a long way. So looking at because going on underwriting, going on the technical aspects, everything has been booming, especially in terms of AI. You see a lot of AI kind of sprinkling in different fields and everything. Now, the question is like, how would that sprinkle into banking? Because there's so much different rules, regulations, and just policies that go in place. I did see that you recently rolled out some stuff on your end, referring to the Lender Portal Pro or the Avanza Admin app.
Yep,
So, regarding, like, the
yep,
technical aspect with AI, what do you see that kinda leveling the playing field for smaller firms, in terms of banking and just
yeah.
every other realm? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is gonna serve a purpose to some degree, like in our industry, we use AI to, read statements, bank statements, and to analyze them, and believe it or not, we get a tremendous amount of fake documents. People PDF the bank statements,
Really?
because we're a revenue-based model. Yeah, so
Wow.
we use, the softwares, or we'll use, like, Adobe AI
Mm,
to run the statements and make sure that everything lines up.
mm,
And, there are several companies out there, but I really like the Adobe software. It just really works very, very well, and, Adobe's been around for quite some time. So we use that, and I think that AI is gonna come in here, and it's gonna help analyze, data a lot faster. I think we're still gonna need the human touch no matter what,
mhm,
right? You always need that human touch, but, the AI is gonna make our life, a lot difference. Just look at companies like in the other sectors, like Palantir for a second. They were a data mining company who started really working for the CIA and all of the FBI and all of the, security agencies for this country. Came out of the PayPal, merger, the sale, and they were a data mining company, and, the stock sat around and actually got crushed for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, AI gets hot, NVIDIA starts running. Next thing you know, people are actually opening their eyes and saying, "Hey, you got this company that can take a piece of paper and analyze it within seconds, where it might take you a few minutes to read." So it saves on time. It's gonna save you on money if you're saving on time. I think that it's gonna wipe out some jobs, but it's also gonna create new jobs,
mhm.
right? And some of the old jobs will be here to stay, but we're using it on our side to analyze, statements.
Yeah, and, people are fearful on the aspect of what AI would replace, right? So that's
Right.
in and of itself, it is very scary to think about, but thinking about how the revolution with the internet and now the revolution with AI, like what's next after this like what could happen, 20 years down the line? Would we be having like
Right.
flying cars at that time? It's just like,
You know Did I lose you? You
uh,
froze for a second. Yeah,
no, it's just like it's AI is constantly evolving every single day, right? So,
yeah. But all technology is,
yeah,
like you were saying, like, what's next, right? Flying cars.
yeah,
When I was a kid, if you would have told me that, we had a cell phone where we could, see videos and take pictures and talk to each other from, it was just unheard of. That futuristic stuff is actually happening.
mhm,
It's actually happening. They can read a newspaper from outer space, with these geo satellites and stuff. I mean, it's just amazing. We're putting robots on another planet. Um, and we have these phones, these smartphones nowadays that have more computing power than NASA had altogether when they put a man on the moon. And
mhm,
we have more power in our hands, and it's just going to get better from there. It's just going to get better from there, and life is going to change, right? Like I said, technologies change. Some jobs get lost, right? Some jobs get, made, and some jobs stay. I mean, if you look at some companies that were wiped out because of technology and, changing, you look at companies like Blockbuster and, Xerox and Kodak. Those were big companies, in their heyday. They're gone. there's really no need for them anymore, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, especially with Bitcoin on the rise. Last I checked,
Oof.
I think it was like 120,000 for 1 Bitcoin. Going back into like '09, it was like maybe a penny. When I was in high school, you hear of Bitcoin every once in a while, but it was more so of like you couldn't, I wouldn't say access it, but it just people didn't see the value in it, right?
And
So
and people didn't know how to get to it. Like, that's the other thing, learning how to get involved in the, cryptos. I just started, dabbling with it a little bit on Xverse. I was, we buying a couple of these small little coins and stuff like that. So I dabble, but, it's not something that I'm too familiar with in that space. I'm still learning. I'm
as
still
am I,
learning.
as am I. It's I try to get involved in the stock market and everything, and then you're talking about this crypto, it's like, "Alright, crypto, NFTs, well, what's all this new stuff just shooting out? Like, what's up besides, like, crypto? Like, what is it gonna be, 5 years from now?" And a lot of people
Right.
are
NFTs.
yeah, a lot of
That's
people
it's just amazing.
mhm. A lot of people think that physical currency is gonna be out in 10 years. I see people
It
say
already is.
yeah, I especially look at, like, yeah, look at
Yeah, it already is. Look, they got rid of the penny.
mhm, true,
Who
true,
who
true.
really carries around a lot of cash with them? Now that you have Zelle, you have Venmo, all these cash apps,
Mhm, credit
they're
cards too.
physical currency is done,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, some
There's
people
no need for that.
some people are like, "Oh, you still accept cash?" Like, of course we do. I still say the same old saying,
Yes.
"Cash
Also be
is
like, "No
king."
cash.
Yeah,
No
cash is
cash." People
cash is
people
still
be like,
king in
"No
my book.
cash."
Yeah, cash is still
I
king in
I
my book.
personally I'm involved in a lot in gold and silver. If I can be honest with you, I don't own a single stock myself.
That's smart.
I, uh, I stick to what I know.
Mhm,
I know my business, and I know that I need something that to offset the risk, and I offset it by buying gold and silver and platinum and palladium, which has been a good bet. Yeah, it's a slower move than everything else, but slow and steady, wins the race sometimes.
exactly. Slow and steady does win the race, and I feel like
Yeah,
that's a very smart aspect to look at. I mean, everybody's just go to stocks, but at the end of the day, where are the basics at? The basics are at gold,
yeah.
silver, platinum, like you said. So I think
And
that's
now
a very strategic move.
AI is a big consumption of silver. That's why silver's been silver hasn't been this high in years, in
Mhm.
years. It hit $52 and some change. It broke like a 15 or 16-year high, and it's just there. People are saying that silver can be $100 an ounce by the first quarter,
That's
which is which is great. I mean, I started getting involved at like $16.
ok wow,
You
that's a
know,
big ROI for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh
but
my
I'm a net buyer. I
mm,
don't sell anything. I'm always just buying and putting
yeah,
away.
buying and holding, that's smart to do. Smart to do. I mean, going back to the Bitcoin, I read this story one time on I think it was, like, in 2012, where some guy bought pizza with Bitcoin, and it was, like, maybe over 1,000 plus Bitcoins. Like, could you imagine if he just held on that for another 13 years?
Where it's worth.
Exactly, where it's worth that. But, again, people just don't understand the market. People just don't realize what's gonna happen, and I feel like going back to the basics like you are, you're believing what's true, and you're holding that truth.
Yeah. Also, I think Bitcoin got a late jump also because it had the stigma of being like a black market currency,
Yeah,
drug
that
dealers
too.
and
Yeah.
and people, doing bad things in these back channel rooms and stuff like that. All everybody wanted to get paid by Bitcoin. So I think that gave it the bad stigma and people just weren't trusting it as much as they should have or as fast as they should have.
Yeah, I can see that standpoint, and as I mentioned, people just didn't understand the value of it either. Given how such technically advanced we are currently, it's only gonna grow from here, right? So just looking at that value, it's just again, people just didn't see that, but now they do, and now everybody wants to hop on and look how much it's worth now. So it's like
Right.
people who knew that it was gonna go 10 years ago are already, millionaires. People who like for example, again, you're going back to the basics. You know what's true and what's not, and I feel like that's long term. You're playing the long term game, and that's all you have to really do sometimes.
I'm playing the long-term game because, at work, I'm playing the short-term game, so I need to offset myself, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, like you said, you got upset. Yeah. So looking ahead, where do you see the company maybe 6, 12 months? What milestones I should say? What milestones are you most focused on? And the challenges that are at place, how are you solving that, and how would that unlock kinda like the next level of growth for Avanza?
So I'd really like to be, north of 60,000,000 next year.
Mhm.
Um, you know, next year, so that'll be like a 50% growth factor for us. We'll have over 100% growth this year over last year. And
Awesome.
the challenges are gonna be having the capital to do so, number one. And number two, having regulation, really not interfere with the alternative lending space. I think that if they start to regulate and we're starting to see, a number of states require certain disclosures, which we send out with our contracts, I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think that there's going to be some form of regulation at some point or another. We'll have to deal with it and address it as it comes. We have a very powerful legal team led by Anthony Barbero, and actually one of our attorneys, Michael Henry, is actually running for Attorney General versus Letitia James. He actually lost to her last time by 4 points. He was a nobody, and he's got a really good shot of winning this time around. So we've been supporting him with that. But getting back to legal, I think legal oversight is very important for us. We don't do any moves without legal clearing it, and I think that having a good legal team is going to be important, especially if regulation starts to come in a little bit more at a time. So that's my concern is regulation.
So, with that regulation, are you referring to just the private credit lending space or more so in, like, the technical AI kinda space?
In the small, alternative lending space, that's my concern. I think AI is going to get regulated on its own in a whole different way. The government always steps in and has to put their 2 cents in sometimes instead of just letting industries run. But that's what they're there for. But sometimes too much regulation is not good.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. With the regulation, it's just it's just with the AI and everything, it's a very gray area in the banking world, in my opinion, because again, people think about what's the first thing people think of? Security aspects. Like how would they trust AI keeping their information secret? Like how would they know that okay, AI has my information? Where's it going to be? Like what data space is that going to be in, and how is that going to be secured? There's so much that has to be thought into it just for compliance, regulations, and everything.
Yeah, yeah. So that's another thing, right? Security of information.
Mhm.
There's a lot of security breaches everywhere. We see it in our industry. You have documents of people's files getting passed around like hotcakes. It's just crazy, which is completely illegal to have someone's file without their permission. I just don't. And there are lead services, and that advertise it, which is crazy. Like that needs to be regulated.
Mhm.
Stuff like that needs to be regulated. Not putting their hand choking us when it comes to actually helping the small businesses and restricting us from doing business with them.
Yeah, it's really scary. I was talking to a woman not too long ago, and she actually got her identity stolen, and she didn't know how. She's from New Jersey, and some some guy from Michigan stole her identity. She said she doesn't have her information online, so she just didn't know exactly how this person was able to acquire her information. And because of that, because she wasn't well, obviously, I don't know the context, but from what she told me was she doesn't have anything online. So with that
Yeah,
place, going back to what people would have with in the servers as well, it is something to think about at the end of the day, because again, it is their information, and people's lives are ruined instantly
yeah.
because of
I
identity.
I had identity theft. It was not pretty. It happened to me in 1998 or 9, 1998, I think it was. It was really horrible, and this was before, that, things got fixed pretty quick, so I can understand people being upset. But even though, say that woman, right, she doesn't have anything online, but the places that she, uses, say, like her bank,
Mhm.
you know, they have her information,
Yeah,
which
or
usually they most of the time they're targeting the corporations because they're getting big blocks of information, you know? So that's where it comes from. That's where they get those leaks.
yeah, and you can also go into the lines of skimmers and everything. It's just
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's in.
some people just they don't really obviously, I don't know what a skimmer looks like. I've never seen one in person, but I've heard stories of people just plopping them onto the card readers without the workers looking, and then people get the information,
Yeah.
and it's too late, like, they have everything they need.
They'll put it onto an ATM machine. It looks like the cover of the ATM machine. They'll slide their card in.
Mhm.
The ATM machine's working, but it's also recording the data, which it's just crazy. It's just crazy. These people that come up with these scams and these viruses, they should be working for the good guys. They'd
Exactly,
make more money.
exactly, like, they should do it for good.
They're
They
geniuses with some of the stuff that they come up with, but
Yeah.
they're criminals, unfortunately.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, exactly. They are criminals. Like you said, like they should use their thought process, their different strategies, because there's so much different schemes, so much strategies, and it just that in and of itself is constantly evolving. So why
Yeah,
not put it to good use? Why not to put it something
right.
like, you talk about I think it's white hat hackers. I think that's the
Yeah, white
term.
hat. Well, yeah, yeah, white hat and black hat.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever watched the movie Black Hat
I have not, no.
with with who are the two brothers? He plays Thor, the one brother in Avengers. He plays Thor. Anyway,
No, I'm not a big
he
Avengers guy.
was one of the he's one of the, yeah, he was one of the hackers.
Okay.
Hemsworth, Ian Hemsworth.
Okay, okay.
But, yeah, hacking is it's real. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
It's just really crazy.
and,
I never understood it. I
yeah.
never understood, like, how do you even, like, where do you even go to start? Like, where do you start? Do you go to
I
someone's
have
website and
taken
work your
a
way back?
couple I've taken a couple coding classes, and I'm just like, "How do people think of this stuff? Like, this is insane."
Yeah,
And
it's
it's just like
ingenious.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
genius.
yeah, honestly. But we're gonna wrap up here, so one final question
Okay,
for you to kinda just
sure.
close, kinda get that kinda reflection going back. So after 20 plus years in finance and going on 9 years leading Avanza Capital, what do you hope people remember most about your journey, your personal and also the business aspect? And what kind of lessons would you pass on to other founders that wanna navigate their own path in banking or just in general as well?
So for me, I'd like to be remembered as a good guy, someone that did right by people. That's important to me. My reputation's important to me, and my father instilled that in us since we were kids, always to be a good person. So that's one thing that I'd like to be remembered by, and I also want to be remembered by as a fair entrepreneur, successful but fair. And I think that if in business you are fair to people and you are, you do right by them, you work hard, and then you get a little bit of luck, you'll have success. So for me, it's just to be remembered as a fair and true person. That's important to me.
Excellent. Yeah. So for anyone who's watching this, what's the best place for them to reach you at?
They can go ahead on our website. It's www.avanza. It's spelled AVANZA .NYC, and they can reach us from the website there. There's our phone number and our email address, and everything's right on there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for hopping on today. I really do appreciate
I
taking.
appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me, Kevin. Thank you.